Window World is proud to present Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. Simply the best for less at windowskansascity.com.
Man, you want to talk about zapping the life out of a baseball season in a hurry. The Kansas City Royals are there. A season-opening sweep by the Minnesota Twins sends the Royals reeling on a long homestand here to start the year as the Toronto Blue Jays will be coming in. A team that lost 2 out of 3 this weekend in St. Louis, and the Royals just aren't doing much right. Sure, there have been some fine pitching performances, but the Royals starters do not go deep enough. Brad Keller was okay on Sunday, but he didn't get through the 5th inning. He pitched 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs. It's not the end of the world. Looks like his new pitch is fairly successful. But we've watched a team that can pitch, the Minnesota Twins, the last 3 days. They're starting pitchers against the Royals in this series. The starting pitchers gave up 1 run, combined. 1 single run. Joe Ryan, the latest to baffle the Royals. He goes 6 innings on this Sunday. He scattered a few hits and pitched out of a couple of jams, but it's what good pitchers do. Joe Ryan just kept the Royals reeling. He gave up a solo home run to Edward Oliveros, and that was it. Joey Gallo had 2 home runs in this game for the Twins. A 3-run bomb off Dylan Coleman in the 7th was the difference in the ballgame, and the Royals really never had a chance from there. They scrapped out some runs. They scored 4. Got a home run out of Matt Duffy, got the 1 out of Oliveros. It was a 2-run homer by Duffy and scratched out another run to get on the board and maybe take some pressure off. It's just an ugly, ugly look, especially at the top of the lineup, with the exception of the great Salvador Perez. Salvador Perez is the one shining spot on this team so far, but the other 4 of the top 5 hitters in the lineup, get this. Melendez and Witt don't have batting averages yet. Over. Pasquantino, 100, and he tried to bunt his way on today. The most powerful guy on the team tried to bunt his way on. You think this team isn't messed up in the head and pressing? Of course they are. And, of course, Massey, the Royals believe, is going to be a real boost to the lineup, playing at second base this year. He's batting just 111, so he finally got his first hit on the season on Sunday. It's bad. It is an ugly look, and as excited as I get every year for baseball season because I love the sport so much, and it's meant so much to our family. We'll have a little bit of that for you here coming up in just a few minutes on KKHI Weekend, what baseball means to me. As much as this all means, and as much as we enjoy this in our family, it's so disgusting. It's just disgusting. And they're talking about a new stadium, and they want $2 billion, and they want all this stuff. And you're like, you want to get excited about the Royals? You want to, but didn't we kind of know in 14 and 15 that, it was so good. The Royals were so good for a couple of years and won a World Series, but didn't we kind of know that it was sort of fluky and other teams weren't very good then and it wasn't going to last? And did we really think the Royals were going to pass it on from one player, one generation to the next and stay good? It just looks like it's so easy for the Royals to stink out loud, and boy, do they right now. The bullpen had been pretty good in the first couple of games, and they were not good today, but here's the deal. You can't go trotting 5 pitchers out there. You keep playing games where you're going to trot 5 pitchers out there, one of them's going to have a crappy day. And today that was Dylan Coleman, who gave up the bomb to Gallo, and it was a bomb. They're still looking for the ball. It's bouncing down I-70. It should be to Columbia by now. He hit it so far. It was just, you just can't. You can't go out and throw 5 pitchers out there and expect to win a game, and the Royals didn't. This is the worst they could possibly start the season, not just getting swept in the division by a team that absolutely dominated the Royals last year, and starting pitchers that absolutely dominated the Royals last year. It looks like nothing has changed. The 65-win team of a year ago looks better than this right now. I feel bad for the manager, Matt Quatrero. What kind of chance does he have here as a manager? Of course you want the job. Of course you want to manage in the big leagues. Of course you like the paycheck. All of those things. But what can he do? What could he possibly do with this lineup? I guess the best thing he can do is somehow find a way to have these players not press at this point, but there's an awful lot of that. Hell, they've got a sports psychologist sitting in the dugout, right? A behavioral scientist. That lady is in the first Royals female in the dugout ever. She's a shrink. She's a sports shrink. That's her job, not Q's job. I don't know what the manager can do. I don't know what anybody can do except Brady Singer. Brady Singer can go out and pitch 7 scoreless innings, but they won't let him go 7. They won't. They'll take 5 on Monday against Toronto because he's not built up, because he was off at the World Baseball Classic. This all just kind of feels like soccer to me. no scoring, boredom. Hey, the games are moving quickly. I'll give them that. The pace of the game is really nice. It's more watchable. Man, the Royals got to do something. They've got to. We can't just keep turning the TV on or going to the game. Really nice crowd at Kauffman Stadium on Sunday afternoon. We can't just keep doing this and say, oh, well, there were a couple of nice defensive plays in the game and call that entertainment and accept that. The Royals were just a putrid 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position today. An absolutely dreadful, dreadful performance all the way around. Too many pitchers, not enough hitters. Blue Jays are coming to town. They lost 2 out of 3. Maybe the Royals can get a couple of wins there. But Brady Singer has a role on this team like no other player. Honest to goodness, he has a role on this team like no other player on this team, in that it's pretty obvious the Royals are going to be a terrible team this year, unless they win the majority of their games that Brady Singer starts. So Brady Singer's pitching on Monday. He's the ace of the staff. He's neatly into the 4 slot. He's getting Toronto's number 4 starter. Should be an advantage for the Royals. And unfortunately for Brady Singer, he can't even go out there and pitch 5 innings and give up 2 runs and expect good things to happen on Monday. He's got to go out there and put up 5 goose eggs and then hope the bullpen is good. Oof. What a dreadful start to the season. It was so exciting, an opening day, and they just zapped the life out of it. 2 straight games without scoring, then they lose 7-4 behind the entire day. Just an ugly, ugly look. All right, this is a weekend episode of KKHI. We'll have a Monday podcast where we talk a little bit about the national title game between UConn and San Diego State coming up Monday night. And it's kind of Trump week in America, as he will be indicted on Tuesday at about 1 in the 1 o'clock hour Kansas City time. It's when Trump will be indicted on Tuesday. So we got a lot to talk about this week for sure on the podcast. We enjoy popping in from time to time on the weekend when things are warranted. And man, this dreadful Royal start certainly warrants it. Not bringing you down. Just had to get it out, folks. I just had to vent a little bit because I do love baseball. I love the start of the season. And I will ask the question that we asked after opening day on Thursday, and that is, will the Royals be at 500 ever this year? And if I'm a betting man now, I bet no way. No way. They better get on it. They're 3 games under. It's still within distance now, but they better get on it. If they're going to get to 500, they'd better get hot, and they better get hot fast if they want to get to 500. It's just a terrible, terrible look. So on Friday's podcast, I mentioned a bunch of the sponsors. I got a little emotional, if you remember. You recall me talking about the Trump indictment, and I was a little down Friday. I was trying not to bring you down, but I was a little down. It brought me down a little bit. We had a wonderful weekend. We went to Tulsa on Saturday night. It's our Turnpike Troubadours. It sold out BOK Center. It was really cool. And it sort of restored my faith in America a little bit. I mean, that town is, there's just Trump flags everywhere. Tulsa is Trump country, baby. There were a lot of trucks, a lot of dudes with beards, a lot of window stickers with guns, and don't tread on me, and bikes, and all kinds of cool stuff. Tulsa's a great American town, and we enjoyed our time there immensely. So you may recall, as I was going through, I didn't really do any commercials for the sponsors. I just mentioned a bunch of them. Well, and I knew I'd get in trouble because I didn't mention them all. I had a list of things that I was going to add into the podcast, but I just didn't have it in me to do the commercial reads. And so I just mentioned them, and I said thank you and thank them for being brave sponsors of this podcast, because certainly people know they're conservative if they're on here, and I thought that was pretty darn cool. And boy, it wasn't 2 hours later, and I got a text from John Hutchins over at Amazing Garage Floors. He said, hey, wait, you left me out. And he is a patriot now. He's a veteran. He was in the Air Force. So sorry, Hutch. My apologies. I knew once I started it, I was in trouble because I wasn't going to be able to mention everybody. And I didn't get Amazing Garage Floors in. So I'm really sorry about that, Hutch. I said, I'll make it up to you this weekend. When I do the weekend cast, I will make it up to you, Hutch. And so there you go. AmazingGarageFloors.net for all things garage floors. For all things barbecue, celebrate National Barbecue Month at Smoke and Fire, the barbecue and fireplace, now at 119th and Metcalf, where they got a big sale going on. Mention KKHI and get 25% off all grill cleaning supplies, 20% off covers. They've got 30% off chef sets, all kinds of great stuff. $20 off a $100 purchase just for asking or mentioning the podcast. At Smoke and Fire, of course, they've got an unbelievable selection of grills and smokers as well. Now open at 119th and Metcalf at Smoke and Fire, the barbecue and fireplace. Dr. Jeremy Fry and our friends at Fry Orthodontics with 13 locations. He's a huge baseball fan, so we thought we'd slide him in on this weekend podcast, as I know he's a big Royals fan. He's already texted me and said, let me know when your mom wants to go. I'll give you my seats that day and you can take your mom. I said, that sounds great. We'll probably be looking for a 75-degree day, something like that, and see if my mom wants to go. I may have to rope her into it a little bit, but I think she'll go. She has a harder time actually seeing the action and following the ball and stuff at the game than she does on television. But I'd love to get her to the ballpark this year and maybe take my sister out there too. So thanks, Dr. Jeremy. Appreciate all you do at Fry Orthodontics. And we appreciate our good friend Gary Joslin over at Joslin's Jewelry. Big sports nut is Gary Joslin, and he'd love to have you in anytime. You need to get something for her, Joslin's at 95th and Antioch is the place to go. Okay, I mentioned that baseball means a lot to me. It was one of the topics that came up. I was on Chris Stigall's show this past week on KCMO. I thought you might find this kind of interesting because I shared a little personal story about the beginnings of not just why I grew up a baseball player and a baseball fan, but my mom. Didn't really include my dad. He hasn't been with us for 24 years now, but my mom still just adores the sport of baseball, but so did my dad. We got into that. We talked about that a little bit, what opening day means, what baseball means to the Keatsmans. New rules in the NFL, and we talked about the International Trans Sports, the International Competition Committee banning trans from competing in women's sports. We get into all that with Chris Stigall from his show this past week. I thought you might enjoy it on Weekend Edition of KKHI.
The KK Has Issues conversation is presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. Shop, click, drive at robertsrobinson.com.
I was just forwarded a formal list, and I'm posting it right now on my Facebook page if you'd like to go there. It's Chris Stigall, ChrisStigall. Just look me up. That's where I'll be. And if you are participating inside the city limits of Kansas City next week in the city council primaries, I have the whole list, the conservative endorsed list of people who will be on the ballot next week. So if you live in the city limits of Kansas City and you're voting and you're a conservative and you want to influence the direction of this council, it's as Brian, who tweeted to me a little while ago. He said, listen, Chris, the thing is, there are conservatives running in every single at-large race. Some candidates are stronger than others, but if conservatives, and particularly Northlanders, show up on April 4th, we could put as many as 7 conservatives on the Kansas City, Missouri City Council. So that list, at least as it's been shown to me, I don't know all of these people, but I trust the source. That's who they say are your conservative choices if you'd like to make an impact next week. And it's not going to take many because nobody shows up for these municipal races. So if several hundred conservatives do, you really could make a dent. Just heads up, that's next week. All right? Telephone number, 576-7710 or text 816-576-7710. It's opening day. Nobody we would rather share opening day with than Kevin Keatsman, host of his wildly popular podcast, Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. Download it each and every day. He talks not just about sports and Kansas City sports, but he talks about everything now. He's free to do so. That's the beauty of the podcast. Keats, the Royals opening day. I was just talking with Mark. I guess not a lot expected out of these Royals this year, at least as far as professional handicappers go. But what do you see? Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, as always. Baseball's that great sport where it really, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter how good you are, but when opening day comes around, it really doesn't matter how good you are because everybody thinks they're going to be good. The weather is getting better. We love going to the ballpark. We like being outside. I'll share a quick personal note with you about what opening day means to me and why I love it so much, regardless whether the Royals are any good this year or not. I was born on June 15th in 1964, and 6 weeks later, I was in my mom's arms out at Johnson County 3-2, where my 7-year-old brother was playing baseball and my dad was the coach. I was a dirty little rugger with a bottle in his mouth at a baseball park all summer long. I've been at a baseball park all summer long ever since then. I played, my brother played, my sister was all Big 8 softball at the University of Missouri. My mom has loved baseball since she got married in the 50s to my dad, and they had children who all played baseball. On this day, this year, she'll be turning 90. She loves the Royals more than anybody you know. I'm going over to pick her up. I'm bringing her back to my house. I'm fixing her a chili dog. I'm popping popcorn, and we're watching opening day together.
Oh, my gosh. What a beautiful story. Mom is 90 and wants to see opening day with you. That is, what a story. And it's hard to, I was just talking about it. I don't have that kind of emotional connection with it, but there is something romantic and uniquely warm or something. American, pure, I don't know, good feelings about opening day of baseball that's not even like the kickoff of the football season. While football is still king in American culture today, there is something romantic and uniquely American about opening day of baseball all over the country.
There's no doubt. There's a pureness to the game. You know, there's no clock in this game, and I think Americans, I think sports fans or just people identify with that. It's a finite thing. It's like a tennis match or golf. There's 18 holes. There's no clock here, although there is a pitch clock now that's going to speed the game up. And a lot of people are saying, oh, the game's going to be too fast now. For your listeners that don't know, Major League Baseball has implemented a pitch clock, which means you have 15 seconds to throw a pitch. The batter has to be in the batter's box when the clock is at 8. As soon as the catcher throws it back to the pitcher, it starts ticking. They've shaved about 30 minutes off every game in spring training this year. Now, you're not getting less baseball, same number of pitches and the same amount of action in a shorter period of time. And what's crazy about this is people are saying, oh, this is so radical of a change. This is what baseball was. I mean, baseball used to be played in 2 hours and 10 minutes. And when Abner Doubleday invented baseball, he took a ball, he gave a dude a bat, said, I'm going to throw this, and you try to hit it. And they were playing, and it was like a fast-paced thing. Well, baseball over the last 2.5, 3 decades has really slowed down. The younger people aren't watching it. They don't find it interesting. It doesn't move fast enough. Baseball's trying everything now to cultivate young people, young viewers, and make it more interesting. We'll see if it works. But I can just tell you this, baseball of any sport, and I do love football now more than any other sport as a fan or as a journalist or, whatever. But as a human being, as a family, and our life experience in this country, we still have an attachment to baseball that it's family. It's life. Baseball is just, it's a remarkable sport.
There's still something about baseball too that I maybe it's because I was a little close to it. For years I was with the radio affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies, and I would go down and cover spring training. I never had access to a baseball team like this until I got to Philadelphia. In Kansas City, I was always a Royals fan casually, but I had never been in the broadcast booth and gone down on the field and covered spring training with a team until I got to Philadelphia. And what I found so charming about it was the fan base, particularly when you go to spring trainings, they can still kind of reach out and touch players. Mm-hmm. There's a casualness or an accessibility to it that football does not possess, even though I love football much more. There's something about kind of being able to reach out and touch the stars of baseball what you can't in football.
Yeah, and it's getting better. This generation of players, I'm not one of these get off my lawn old guys. I'm gonna recognize this right now and tell it for what it is. This generation of baseball players, these guys are better. Okay, especially with fans, understanding what the game is, that it's entertainment. They're better than the players of 20 and 30 years ago. I'll be honest. I'll drop some names here. Kirk Gibson was here. Bo Jackson was here. At times, George Brett. Classic jerks. I mean, guys, you just didn't want to be around. They didn't want to sign autographs. They turned their nose up at kids. There was an arrogance and a snobbiness to baseball for about 20, 25 years that led the game off the rails. These guys, this Vinny Pasquantino that plays first base for the Royals, he spent his off day Monday in Arlington. They were getting ready to play the Rangers on Monday night in Texas. He spent the off day taking his teammates to Six Flags riding roller coasters and shooting videos and putting them on social media for all the Royals fans. Like, he's working for the PR department while playing first base for the team. And when they come to the ballpark, they want to shake hands, they want to nod, they want to sign autographs. The Royals forever would park their cars, and there was a little hut there in the parking lot, and they'd walk in this little door and go down in a tunnel and be able to enter the stadium underneath the stadium by avoiding all the fans. They did this for 25 or 30 years, and these players just aren't like that. And it's about time that people that play these sports, that make this kind of money, this generation's totally different. They all grew up on iPhones now. They all grew up on social media. They love it. They love interacting with other people, and they don't think, hey, I'm a baseball player and you're not, so I'm better than you. It's really cool to see, and I think it's really going to help baseball.
That's a cultural thing, isn't it? Are you seeing that with football so much or not?
Yes, but it's much more prevalent in baseball because the lack thereof before. There wasn't much. Everybody in Kansas City follows Patrick Mahomes on social media. The guy put up an emoji 2 days ago, and it became a national story. I don't know if you saw this. The NFL announced that they're going to ask some teams to play twice on Thursday nights. And the players don't like that. Yeah. The players don't like playing on Thursday nights because it's a short week. They think it's bad for their legs, whatever. Patrick Mahomes doesn't even put a word up. He puts up an emoji, the facepalm emoji, where it's like you're hitting yourself in the forehead like, oh my God. There's no words, nothing. It's a one emoji tweet, and it becomes a national story.
I noted watching the parade, the Super Bowl parade, and I know this was the case the last time, but even more so this time. In my opinion, what I saw in that first Super Bowl parade and this second one, it seemed like those guys were much more aware of getting down even off the bus and walking about and passing a trophy around and shaking hands and passing beers. Was that purposeful? Are they mindful of that, do you think?
I think they are, and I know there was criticism of the alcohol and stuff in the parade, and I'll just say this. It's much better to get down off the float and shake hands than to fall off the float. So it was a good thing nobody was falling off the floats, but it was early in the day, so who wouldn't love that? I mean, if you've won a Super Bowl, and think about this, there's a handful of players on a team like the Chiefs that are giant superstars, but the rest of these guys, their careers are going to be 5 years or less. I mean, they're living the best 5 years of their life, and they're riding on Patrick Mahomes' coattails. What a great deal. Plus, it comes with a gigantic check. You get a huge check for winning the Super Bowl. You get a ring for life, a story to tell forever. If I was one of those guys, if I'm the 48th guy on the roster, I would have been living up in that parade like nobody. I wouldn't have even gotten on the float. I'd have walked the whole thing and shaking hands and taking pictures.
And then invited everybody to the house after for another party.
All of Kansas City to my backyard. Let's go.
Kevin Keatsman hosts his wildly popular podcast, Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. And when we get back, if you have time, Kevin, I'd like to talk to you a little more about this proposal from the NFL on expanding second Thursday night game. Mahomes did not like it, and that's a rare pop-off from Mahomes. He did add a little more to his criticism on that. He and Goodell back and forth. I thought it was interesting. We'll get into that next with Kevin Keatsman on KCMO. Gee, you think the NHL, I read, it's so funny. I don't know why it seems to happen when Kevin's on the show. We really intended only to talk to Kevin about opening day. Then all these stories continue to pop, and it seems like every time you come on, they come along with. The NHL is saying, maybe we'll reevaluate this whole Pride Night thing. Maybe that's causing us a problem. You think? I don't know why. How many times do they have to go through this before they think maybe that's not good for the brand that we cause this needless controversy, Kevin?
Well, yes, we've talked about this. Don't make the players wear it. Have your Pride Night. Have any night you want. You can have Jewish Community Center night. You can have Church of the Resurrection night. They have all these different nights at Royals games or any sport, but that doesn't mean you have to. If you're Muslim, you have to wear a cross because it's Church of the Resurrection night. I mean, this is absurd. Stop making the players reflect what you're trying to do to sell tickets. And so much of this is jerseys and uniforms. So like the Chicago Blackhawks, for example, they come up with a jersey they were going to wear and it's got pride colors on it. They're going to sell that in a city of how many million people to how many LGBTQ folks that would maybe like to buy one of those and wear it or frame it or whatever. And there's money involved in this. These teams everything's about money. Stop forcing your players to represent every group that comes to every game. Everybody has a right to free speech, but you also have a right to not speak and not be part of something and not support something. We all have that right.
Yeah, I don't intend to be there tomorrow when the city brings in Rachel Levine. I don't know if you heard that. Admiral Rachel Levine, who's neither an admiral nor a Rachel, but it's officially a trans celebration tomorrow at the Liberty Memorial, sponsored by the city. They say it's a trans day of visibility. Ironically, they say in the press release, do not take pictures of anyone except those on stage, and there will be armed security. I find that whole thing very interesting. But you're right. You don't have to participate in that, even though the city's bringing it to town.
I am frightened by transgenderism. I'll tell you that right now. Frightened. I'm not a transphobic. I don't wish ill on anyone. I don't want to discriminate against them. What I'm seeing on the internet, the things that I'm seeing and what I'm reading about the medicine and the drugs and the hormones that they take to transition is frightening because it creates angry, unstable people. And we're seeing, there's been 5 shootings now, 5 incidents, but somebody that's either non-binary or transgender. And the worst of these, scientifically, the data's in. It's absolutely, if you're transitioning from being a woman to a man, things are about to happen to you that you've never thought would happen to you in your life. When you get these male hormones, you're now emotionally dealing with things you've never dealt with. And there's no question that men are more aggressive than women. I don't think there's any question that men's rage is worse than women. And as you transition, you're going to deal with this after what? For this woman, the Nashville shooter, after 26, 27 years of being a woman, she's now taking drugs to become a man and seeking psychotherapy and somehow is able to buy guns. I mean, none of this makes sense. And I'm not trying to just like red flag the trans community, but my God, we've got a problem there. They're violent. They're wearing shirts with assault rifles on them. The fastest growing group of gun owners in America is transgenders. They're weaponizing themselves, and they're having a day of vengeance on Saturday in Washington, D.C. What else do we need to look at and see? We have a problem here, and we better address it before it gets worse.
Right. Well said. Day of visibility here in Kansas City tomorrow at the Liberty Memorial. Day of vengeance in Washington, D.C. on Saturday. So you can attend both if you get an overnight flight. Have fun. But back to Mahomes, I am very interested to note that I guess who you could argue is the biggest star in football now, Patrick Mahomes, who really is not known for wading in and popping off too much about much of anything, made it pretty clear he doesn't like the addition of this possible Thursday night game. Said that the league is putting Amazon over the safety of players. Goodell didn't like that. He responded. What do you make of that back and forth?
Okay, so Patrick Mahomes is feeling his oats here. He's won a couple of Super Bowls, and we knew this was going to happen. When he first started playing and we saw how good he was, I made comments then on the radio. I said, this is great because he's just a kid that loves to ball and he can play and all these great things, but watch how he changes through the years and see what he decides to support. That very first year, we had riots going on and BLM demonstrations and stuff, and somehow he couldn't say no to anybody. And they roped Mahomes into making a PSA and supporting BLM and things like that. I don't think he'll ever make that mistake again. I don't think he'll ever do that again. I think he's conservative. First of all, I know the Chiefs as an organization are conservative. I don't think he'll ever do that, but he kind of got roped in by the Players Association. Now I think he sort of feels like he's a spokesperson for other players. These players have been told from day one that playing on Sunday, turning around and playing on Thursday is bad for you. This is going to be hard. This is coaching. Okay, the coaches tell them this. Focus, focus, focus. This is going to be hard. No drinking this week. Don't go out. If you usually go out to dinner on Tuesday nights, your day off, don't do that. Get extra rest. They have pounded it in their heads because they're coaches, and they want them to be able to play well on Thursday night. There is no data whatsoever that this is hard on the player's body, that there are more injuries, or that it's dangerous. The players are flat wrong on this one. I'm not big to support Roger Goodell all the time, but there are years of data of this. There's nothing that shows there's anything wrong with turning around and playing on Thursday night. And many players then love having 10 days off before their next game because their body can really rest up. So I was a little surprised to see Mahomes in the fray, but I think it was more of a reaction of, you just changed a rule to make money off me. I think that's what he's looking at. You made all this money from Amazon, and you're going to put me on Thursday night twice, and I'm getting nothing out of this deal. That's what I think it is.
By the way, are the returns in on Amazon and how they're doing the Al Michaels experiment and everything first season? Have you heard much about that?
Well, they got really bad games. The first game ever was the Chiefs and the Chargers, and it did great, and it was a great broadcast, and Al Michaels does a great job. But the games they had all year were the worst of the league. They just gave them clunkers because the numbers are low. Compared to putting it on broadcast television, it's a fraction of the number of people watching that will watch on streaming. So they literally were putting a Chiefs-Chargers game on that almost nobody around the country saw. Sports bars aren't prepared to stream Amazon and things like that. So they're trying to build it up. It's a pile of money Amazon paid. Amazon's doing so great as a company, they're talking about buying AMC theaters now here in Kansas City. But they're doing great either way. The question is what happens with these streaming services and how do leagues deal with them? The Royals have a couple of games on Apple TV this year. Well, who's going to watch those? I mean, it's not a winner for exposure for your product. It's just money for the league and the owners. And I really do think that's where the players are looking at this. I think we saw George Kittle with the 49ers, who's a star player and a great team. The 49ers are likely to be on Thursday night twice. They want to put the Chiefs and teams like the 49ers on primetime TV, wherever they can leverage them all the time. And I think Mahomes figures it's going to be twice. Now, we'll see what kind of clout he has. If the Chiefs only have one Thursday night game, whatever he did apparently worked for him.
And it's with everything. I mean, the broadcast business and everything else is evolving. Do you see a day? I mean, I guess YouTube TV has stepped in now. DirecTV doesn't have day exclusivity on Sunday Ticket. Where do you see ultimately? I don't know. Project 10 years out. How are we going to be watching football?
I think we'll see consolidation. I think ultimately what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of platforms because right now everything's splintered off. So I stream a few things. I stream Apple and Paramount Plus and a couple of other things, but I don't stream them all. I don't have Netflix. I've found them through the years to be insanely liberal. And so I don't stream Netflix. And I got a lot of people say, oh, there's great shows on there. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that company's for me. I got Amazon simply because of Thursday Night Football and what I do for a living. I have to see it. The Chiefs were on there. I need it. And so I have that. But I don't know too many people that have like 12 streaming services, and there's at least 12 of them. Well, by the time you do that, you're spending more than cable. So I think at some point there's a consolidation of these services and they're under one roof. Now, it may be expensive. It may be like getting Spectrum cable, and then you can get a package of streaming services all on there as well, and you may wind up paying $200, $250 a month for all of it. But I do think there will be some sort of consolidation in this industry because they're just fractioned off, Chris. You know this. You've been in radio forever. I don't know how many stations there are in Philadelphia, but there's about 25 or 30 in Kansas City. Well, it's really hard to have – when I first started in TV, there were 3 channels doing news here. Well, I mean, we could have crappy ratings and 30% of the people were watching us. You know, there was huge numbers, but everything is splintered off into such small pieces right now. That is no way to promote your league. The NFL knows that. They have stayed on broadcast TV. Even people that put rabbit ears on their TV can watch the Chiefs most week on Channel 5. So I think the NFL has been very wary of that, and they do not want to go to all streaming.
Interesting. Kevin Keatsman Has Issues is the name of the podcast. He discusses this and so many more things. News, politics, sports, doesn't matter what it is. He tackles it all, and he does it very, very well. The thing has just exploded in popularity. I'm so happy for him. It's where he belongs, where he can speak freely and say whatever he wants. Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. Great to catch up, Keats. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, buddy. And now that I know what a facepalm emoji is, I can't wait to use it.
News coming up next on KCMO.
Thanks for listening to Kevin Keatsman Has Issues, presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. To get exclusive patrons-only podcasts, receive a weekly newsletter, and attend in-person patrons-only parties, visit KKHasissues.com and become a patron today. This has been a production of Crooked Tail Media Incorporated.